Almost a year to the day ago, I moved into this beautiful workshop that I think, is ready to show you. If you guys have a workshop of your own or a workspace even, you'll know that it's really hard to put your own personal stamp on a place, and it does take a lot of time working with the space to know where to put what and how to work, for want of a better word, rhythmically within your space. This is a Luthier workshop, and over the last year I've been building guitars and moving things around, and I think I'm at a point where I can happily say that this works for me. And I wanted to share with you guys the inside of my workshop because I don't really think I've done that before. Obviously you've seen it in the background of other videos, but I thought that I'd take you through my systems and my machines and all of my little drawers and weird tools so that you guys can not only see how I do it, but also perhaps understand Luthier as a craft a little bit more. So without further ado, welcome to my workshop. With the table saw, guys. This is my newest tool in the shop, apart from my side bender, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's one of my newest, certainly my biggest tool. And now table saw is something I always wanted because I've been using ones which I got from like the Home Depot equivalent in the UK, and they were just quite frankly really unsafe. And I just thought getting a steel bed table saw with proper safety precautions, proper extraction was just worth its weight and worth every penny. And I was right. So we've got a fence here, which is great. We've got one of these slidey mitre boys, which is super exciting. I've actually got a fret saw blade in there at the moment, which you'll see for the full build. We've got an emergency stop down here. The blade can actually pivot, which is super useful, so that's what that's for. And then we have another controller on the side as well. Anyway, background, we've got some off-cut plywood and a guitar case, which I use for transporting guitars back and forth to the spray booth, usually, but obviously sometimes around town as well. Up here we've got a spray booth tent, which I use in emergencies. I've got the electrics, all of that kind of thing, a backgammon board I made for a previous video, and a charging station here. So I've got all of my gear for charging my batteries and my drills, and I've got a few table saw assorted accessories there too, things like push sticks, very important. Down here we've got an air compressor that I used when I had to make a makeshift spray booth once, which nearly aged me 20 years, but here we are. And also an extractor for said spray booth. Not the best, I'll be honest. Not the best. Let's not dwell on those. Moving on, here I have a benchtop planer. Now I just gave you that spiel about the table saw, benchtop table saws being useless, but this thing is awesome. I love it. The Titan table saw, absolutely rubbish, but this little planer, I've never had any issues with it. To be honest, I normally plane timber by hand, but if I've got a long way to go, I will throw it in this thing and it will just do the trick. Not expensive, but actually quite like solid. That's a pretty solid bed. It's never given me any issues, and it's been with me a while now, so very impressed with that. Down here we've got a dehumidifier, which I never need to use because this workshop is perfect, it seems, in its climate control, self-maintained climate control. It's always at like 50% or 51% relative humidity, which is perfect for guitar making. So I have retired this pretty much. And then I've got my grinding wheel down here, which was a gift to me from my good friend Harry Owen, who was at my last workshop. Thanks, Harry. I use it all the time. Up here, I have rigged up personal extraction, which you can see using some duct tape, very efficient, but also from Axminster, I use their system there. To be honest, there are a couple of things wrong with this system, but the tubes are good and you can see when stuff is caught and when it's not. And yeah, I've hooked up most of my machines to that. So I've got this belt sander here from Axminster. Honestly, it's not good. It's not a good thing, but I don't use it enough to upgrade. However, I will be upgrading at the next available opportunity. It will be the next tool that I buy, is a really good belt sander, and possibly a belt disc sander if I can. This is a spindle sander, and gosh, it's like a roller coaster, but God, I love this machine. I'm so impressed with it. It's got fantastic extraction. It's really impressive, and I've had nothing but a fantastic time with it. So if you're looking for a cheap spindle sander that is going to deliver, I would highly recommend this one. Oh, they've just started playing rap music next door. That's going to be fun. So, moving on to this absolute beast. This is my newest tool in the shop, and it's the new StewMac side bender. Now, I'm just going to play a little clip of the first time I used this thing because it's hilarious, and then I'm going to tell you what happened. If you saw that clip, you'll know that, of course, this is a US power tool, and I'm in the UK. Did I know what a transformer was? I do now, and I got one, so it's all good. But yeah, I've used this thing since. It's absolutely flawless. I'm chuffed as anything with it because I used to do all my side bending by hand, and to be honest, with the super figured woods, it's just not a good idea to do that. This sorted it right out first time, no problem. Did it in like no time at all, so I'm chuffed. You'll see this in the full build video that I'm doing, which will be fun, and yeah. Literally these guys next door, Guy and James, are playing such wild rap music. I'm gonna go tell them off later. So, moving on, we have an extractor for the spray booth as well, and then just an extractor hood because it's super useful, plus a battery thing there, which is cool. Cheeky little box under here that has all of my spray finish stuff in. So it's got like the spray finish hose line that connects to the extractor, it's got some sandpaper, everything that I need is in that box, which is great. There is a spray booth on site, so I do just pick it up and move it to the spray booth when I'm ready to spray finish, and it just makes life so much easier. Next up, we've got a sanding scenario shelf, which is cool. This on top is the 3M Stick It stuff from StewMac, which is really useful. I do get through it, I'll be honest. So all of the grits that I usually use are not there at the moment. These are the finer grits for sanding up fingerboards. I've got offcut sandpaper in this basket here, so if I like cut some like this and I don't use all of it, it goes back in this little box here just to prevent waste. I've also got this sandpaper, which is for the belt sander, which we'll go into in a minute. This is the leftover stock, so when I need to cut some more, I'll do this. These are the pre-cut ones, all in there. They're all sort of labelled on the inside of the paper, which is handy. I've got another offcut bin for higher grits here. This is sandpaper cleaner, which is kind of cool. It is for the drum sander, but I also use it on the belt sander, and it's really, really good, and the spindle sander, which is great. So that lives there. This is just a bowl that my friend Mike made with a sanding attachment in it. It's probably the most bougiest way of storing a sanding attachment I've ever seen, but you know, that is the princess I am. Next, we've got some generic sandpaper here. We've got some 240, 180, 80 and 120 just there, which is great. Right here, down here, I store a couple of jigs. So this jig is essentially just a sled for my router. So if I'm doing like saddle slots, you can see I've done one down there and gone too far. It's like a locator pin though, so I can see where it's lining up. It's a very, very quick jig I just made when I couldn't really be bothered, but it's actually super useful. This is also the jig that I use for binding. So again, from StewMac, like pretty much everything in here. It's a sort of router cradle with a tower carriage scenario. You'll see that in use during the full build. I've also got some nice art in here. I really need to get more on the walls, but this is done by my friend Hannah. She's a really great painter. I love her work. I'm going to put a link to her in the bio because she's just, I just love it. I just love it. I saw it and I fell in love with it, and I knew that I had to have it in my workshop. Anyway, drum sander. Now, I do a lot of work with this guy, so of course we had to make him have a personality. Doesn't have a name yet, but you know, that's okay. This one I've been really impressed with because during my apprenticeship I used a jet sander, and it had one motor on one side and not one on the other side. So what would happen is the motor would spin on one side and it would sort of sacrifice the other end in power. So what you ended up with was timber that was on a slightly on the piss, as they say. This guy, absolutely not. This guy's perfect. One thing I would say is that it's very hard to get extraction right for this. It does not suck up as much as it needs to, so I end up often with little pools of sawdust on the floor, which is a bit of a pain, to be honest. But that is not because of the machine. I guess it's because it's a job that requires a lot of extraction, so totally understandable. Moving on to that, on that note, this is my extractor. I got this off Facebook Marketplace here in the UK for about £300. Don't know how many dollars that is, probably like 400. I had to like clean it out properly. Had to get rid of a lot of dust in there, but it really runs clean as a whistle now. I like this little pyramid thing it's on. It's very useful to push around because it's on wheels. This is part of the routing jig. I use it for routing the binding channels with the jig that I just showed you from StewMac. I've got my bandsaw blades on this wall as well. I've been very disciplined in coiling them back up again because it is easy to sling them onto this hook when they are not properly coiled, as I'm sure we're all guilty of. And here we have a router table. Again, I don't use, like, often I'm using hand tools, so I didn't invest in a particularly good one. And to be honest, because the floor in here is so uneven, I'm not going to recommend this because it's just very flimsy. But it does, for me it does the job, but I wish that I'd gone for something a little bit more sturdy. It's also supposed to fold away, but like you need to undo a bolt every time you... God, what is going on outside? You need to undo a bolt every time you want to fold it away, which I just think defeats the object, personally, of a fold-away table. Now, a slight elephant in the room with my workshop is the lack of windows. So I was looking for a decent fan. I found one, so I'm really happy with that. It kind of doesn't look super offensive like my last one. I've been working without airflow in here for a long time, and then I found this fine gentleman of a tower fan. It's got all the kind of things that I need. I can switch it on here, but also it does have a handy little remote. Oh, and then it spins. Isn't that the sickest thing you've ever seen in your life? It's a big vibe, I would argue. I'm gonna ramp up the air. It's pretty quiet as well, which is really nice. So when I am doing my thing, I can feel like a model. You know, those ones that you get the fan and then it's in your hair. I do actually keep it here for a reason, so I can just pop it up there and then set it on its little spinny thing, and it'll do its magic, which is nice. God, I really feel sweat dripping off me, guys. Feels good. For those of y'all who wanna get one yourselves, it's the fan is from DREO, and I've put a little link in my bio, friend, so you can go and take a look. Next up, we do have the hand tool wall, guys, which I am super stoked about sharing with you because this workshop is all about hand tools. I know that there's a lot of fancy power equipment, but the heart of the workshop is this tool, and I love it, and it's got some of my favorite tools on it, so I'm going to take you through those now. Starting off on the left-hand side, we've got my baby squirrel plane, which you may have seen a few times in videos. I've got some Renaissance wax, which is a bit random to have that, but in my head it makes sense because I just always know where it is. I've also got my friend here who is a spoke shave by trade. I've got my rulers up here as well. I've got a French cleat system, so if you want to see me build this, I do have a video of me building this wall, which is quite fun. So they're all secured with French cleats, and it means that I can move them around if I want to, although a lot of them are pinned to the actual board. However, simple unscrew and you can flick them out and then move them wherever you want to go. I've also got my PPE here, by the way, guys, very important. This is from StewMac again, and it's a fret scale ruler, so I use that for my fret jig, which again you'll see in the full build video if you stick around on the channel. This is from Crimson Guitars. It's a new acquisition. I recently got to know Ben at Crimson, and he's such a sweet man and such a good entrepreneur, so that's cool. Go check them out. Got my Japanese saw up there as well, swinging merrily. This is also from Crimson. It's a neck carving radius gauge. So when I'm carving a neck, I can pop that over it and then see exactly where I'm at with the neck carve. I feel like every workshop needs to feel like a familiar place. So I've got some pictures of me with my friends there, holding some flowers from an event we went to. This is my fret saw. These are StewMac fret templates as well, but I also use them as straight edges. And then I've got my reamer for bridge pins. I've got my fret crowning file. God, I'm forgetting what everything's called. And then of course, the pièce de résistance. I have my Lie-Nielsen number 7 plane. Thomas Lie-Nielsen gave this to me himself, which is just makes it extra special. I did the Lie-Nielsen Christmas card one year, which is here under the Matt Esley marking knife, which is also something I'll talk about in a sec. So I did this Christmas card for Lie-Nielsen along with a couple of other designs, and Thomas in exchange gave me this beautiful plane. I go into that in another video because in the early days where I didn't have a lot of like capital to buy my own tools, I was thinking of creative ways to kind of get hold of the tools that I wanted, aka everything Lie-Nielsen. I've also got a picture here of one of my best mates helping me bend some sides. Moving on up, we have the crown marking gauge, which I actually never really, to be honest, use anymore. And then I've got my crowning file from StewMac there, of course. Another crowning file as if I needed more. And at the top we have the overlord himself, Psyduck. You want to come down and say hi? No? All right. He gets like that. Picture of my friend Florian and I. Florian is a potter and he has a YouTube channel and it's wildly successful because it's fantastic. So go and check that out. Here I've got my angle, Incra angle finder. What do you call it? Not protractor. I can't remember what it's called, but you know, you can see it. We've got a sliding square. We've got a engineer's square, which is my absolute workhorse. I use it all the time. I've got my gent saw, which was one of the first tools I ever bought. Got some rulers here. These two are from StewMac. They're actually rules, sorry. The difference between a rule and a ruler is that rules start at the end. FYI, rulers don't. This is from Moore & Wright, which are a fantastic tool manufacturer, really, really bougie, really nice. I've got a couple of them. I've got my cabinet scraper, which I use to scrape backs. And then I've got these really, really precise digital calipers from, again, StewMac, big surprise there. I've then got my scalpel, which again, proper workhorse, I use it every day. And then I saved this one, which is my Matt Esley marking knife. This was a gift from Matt because he is the sweetest man in the world. And it's just beautiful. This is Paduke and it's handmade by Matt. You can see it's got a few signs of wear, apologies Matt, but it's because I'm using it so much because I love it. It's actually, I found, pretty useful for carving necks. Like heels on necks, which is really cool. Moving up again, we've got a mallet, we've got various screwdrivers, pretty straightforward. And then we've got these deluxe fret tang nippers, which are super useful. They're a game changer actually, because you can set the depth of the tang, which you can't do with a lot of pretty basic fret nippers, which is why, fret tang nippers, which is why they're called deluxe. I've got some pliers up here, I've got some pliers down there, or cutters. These are fret cutters. So again, they kind of stick together. I've got a postcard up there that my friend gave me from wherever she was traveling. Then I've got my spanner set at the top. Adjustable spanners are problematic at the best of times, but they are just quite useful to have. I try not to use them and I try to find the appropriate spanner for the appropriate bit, but you know, needs must sometimes. Down here I've got my chisels. I've got my little one, for want of a better word, a slightly bigger one. This is a brace chisel, so it's scooped, which means you can scoop up the end of braces and not interfere with the measurement when you're tucking them into the sides. Again, I'll go into that more during my full build video. And then we have a micro chisel that I use for purfling, which I think you'll agree is the cutest thing. Oh, is it going to focus? Cutest thing I've ever seen, apart from the squirrel plane. We're then going to move on to this thing, which is actually a fretboard radiusing jig, 16 foot, nice and sturdy from StewMac yet again. And then here we have my chisels. So this Two Cherries chisel from StewMac. These are Japanese chisels that I got from Workshop Heaven here in the UK, which is a beautiful company, really nice like run company, love it. They're so sweet there, always really helpful. This was my great-grandmother's. I did a video of restoring this, but I think we've worked out since that this is not one that she turned by hand. She just engraved it. I think I left the one that she actually turned by hand at my mother's house. So that's a bit of a shame, but thanks to everyone who figured that out for me. And it's also ash, we decided. Moving on, this is another workhorse chisel. It's a Japanese chisel from Workshop Heaven. I got this 3 as a set. Moving on to my bench brush, which my stepmom gave me. Actually, she's not my stepmom yet. My dad will not hurry up and marry her. They're still engaged after God knows how many years. Hint, hint, dad. This is a edge chisel. It's okay. I'm not going to say it's the best tool in the world. I don't love it, to be perfectly honest. I think it's because I've been spoiled using Lee Nielsen, and then I got this from Axminster on discount because it was a showroom piece. I don't know. I'm not going to endorse that because I use it so rarely because I don't get joy from using it, and I think that says a lot about a tool. Sorry, Axminster, you do great things, but I didn't love that. What I do love is this number 5 plane from Lee Nielsen. Absolute fantastic tool. I use it most days and it will forever be in my heart. I dropped it once and it was so sad, but I can fix that and it did not impact the plane. Lee Nielsen is such good quality, man. I love them. Moving on to my clamp rack. So these are all from Axminster and I love these clamps. They're so good. So yeah, proper useful. These ones are probably my favorite, but I've only got 2 of them. So I really need to get some more of those because they're really fantastic. They've got quite a wide mouth. These are from Rutland's and I hate them so much. I have nothing more to say about these guys. They are so annoying. They don't go, they don't go quite far enough here and then, oh, they're a pain in the ass. These guys, however, very cute. Love them. New acquisition. And then I've got my sharpening station here, which is super cute. Again, I've got one of my friend Mike's bowls. You know when makers kind of just hate what they've done, so they'll put it in the trash, even though to another man it's their treasure. So I stole it back. Haha. Sorry, Mike, if you're watching this. I've got my sharpening honing guides in there, and I've got everything I need to make tools really sharp. I've got a sink in my workshop, which is very useful. I've also got a bar to hold tea towels, and then my mother did this sculpture, which I really love. She's a figurative sculptor, and this is dip dyed, as it were. That's not the proper term, but it's dip painted, whatever that's called, in some paint. I just really love it, so I have that there. And then my various cleaning things. I have a mirror here. Hi, you can see me. And then bins. Trash, recycling, not very interesting. Got a Hoover. Let's move on to something a bit more exciting. I've got a guitar on the bench at the moment. This is my Go Bar deck. I've got various bits up there, but we're not going to talk about that because it's really messy. And yeah, I've got this guitar on my bench at the moment, which went on sale yesterday with the rub report. So hopefully, I'm just giving it a little set up in case somebody does want it immediately. In other news, I have some templates and things that I'm working on up here. This is the 5,000-year-old oak build that I'm going to be doing a full video on, which is very exciting. I've also got a speaker, which is a workshop essential, I think. It's a Bose SoundLink, really, really useful. Love it. Listen to my podcasts and whatnot on that. I've then got a neck that I'm working on and the rim assembly for this 5,000-year-old oak guitar that I'm building as well. And here I've got on my bench as a sort of reminder of what is to come, I've got the piece of wood that I recovered from the Masai Mara in Africa, which I'm going to be cutting up and inlaying into a guitar. And then there'll be more on that soon. Down here is a lot of bits, really. I've got a paintbrush holder. I've got like a first aid self-care thing with nail files and glasses and stuff in there with sun cream. I've got a Dremel buffing wheel thing. Got another one of Mike's bowls, which I snaked from under his nose. And then some scalpel blades in that orange pot there, which is actually really useful. These are drawers full of jigs and sanding blocks, which is cute. And in these drawers, I just have a bunch of specialist tools. So this is my turning drawer. I've got lots of screwdriver attachments in there and some countersink bits. In here, we've got a 45-degree fret beveler, which I never use because I do semi-hemispherical frets, but it's nice to have it. Got a bridge plate cool. Everything bridge related or fretwork related is kind of in here, mainly bridge. Next one is fretwork stuff. So we've got my fret holder, we've got some fret leveling tools, we've got a string winder, that kind of thing. We've got nuts and saddles in there. And in this one, this is actually a router bit drawer, but it's obviously other things have made their way in, such as scales and calipers, which I don't use now. I've got the digital ones, and a stamp for when I sell merch. And in the top there, we have another self-care drawer, which just has plasters, gloves, vitamin D apparently, hand cream, all of that stuff. And apparently somebody's put some googly eyes on here. I bet that was Mike. Mike, I see you. In here, we've got spanners, all kinds. In here, we've got all kinds of drill bits. And in here, we've got all kinds of Allen keys. So I'm not grasping around at straws, trying to find everything. It's all there. And this is my wood stash. Now, I don't keep huge amounts of wood in the wood stash. These are offcuts of spruce that I'm going to use for bracing that maybe came off old bits of bracing that I was using, or things that I don't want to throw away because this stuff is precious and I don't want to be wasteful. I've got some old back and sides cut into bridge plates there. I've got bridges down here and in my Hogwarts Hogwarts box. Isn't that so cute? I've got a test piece of cedar that I was trying to cut on the CNC to see if I could do it that way for cedar cores, which kind of went pretty well actually, so I might start using that. There's also some binding blanks and some fretboards that you can see there, as well as these cedar go bars here. And finally we've got some back and side sets there. Now we've got some oak that I'm using in a current build, and we've got some spruce tops, which are all moon spruce, which are lovely, and we've just got a couple of rogue bits of timber that I picked up along the way in there as well. Also got my apron hanging nicely here and a bit of my camera gear on the side if I need to flip lenses quickly. Moving swiftly on from that, we have a lamp which helps me do stuff, and then we have my radius dishes are stacked here. I've also got a bin of offcuts here which I just chuck things in that are too good to waste. For example, I was doing a test with bending this apple to see what would happen. Decided not to use it, so it goes in there and I'll find a use for it at some point. I've also got a pillar drill here, which is great. I love this pillar drill. It's very reliable. It just does everything I want it to do, to be honest. I don't use it a huge amount, but when I really need to be very precise, I'll use it absolutely. I also got this cross vise and lined the jaws with leather so that I can put delicate things in. This thing is really great. It's hard to keep maintained, weirdly. It keeps sort of, there are bits that come undone because you're using it on a wobbly tool like a drill press. It inevitably moves around, but it's very useful for things that need really precise drilling work, and it's fairly repeatable as well. This is where I keep the dustpan and brush. Weird, but it makes sense for me, you know. Here we have another lamp, which is really throwing off my camera settings, but there we go. I'll be honest, the light in here is awful, so I turned off one of the main lights for this video because it just looks so clinical. So if you're wondering why it's so dark, that's why. It just looks a bit nicer. But the light in here is very clinical, so I've tried to get lamps, but this is pretty useless, doesn't really do much. It's only detail stuff that I use it for. Now let's take a step back quickly and look at this lovely vise. I have bolted it to the floor, which is super useful. There's one bolt that I need to put in still, but it's great. It's the Dan Erlewine shop stand with the StewMac vise on it, and I use this thing for everything. It's so useful. It's actually a Luthier's vise because it moves around. It can do compound radiuses. It can do whatever you want, especially with net carving. It's fantastic. And also this unbolts and then this screws on. This is my buffing wheel. It's got a base, and it just, when I'm doing finish work, I just pop it on the back, on the base, and it really nicely fastens on, and then I've got a buffing wheel, which is fantastic. Oh yeah, I've got invoices in there, by the way, if I need to do business things. Got paperwork in there. But yeah, buffing wheel's great. It lives down there for now, next to the table that I built fairly recently for my CNC machine. This is a new acquisition, and CNC is something I really wanted to get into for a while because of jig making. It's a challenge, but this machine is really great. It's from Mechanica, and they are very good with their customer service. I've said it in previous videos. I did a video fairly recently using it, and anytime I have an issue, they're very good at that, which is exactly what I need. Very robust, good spec, everything you need. would recommend, honestly. I put a sort of custom shelf in there with cladding, which was very exciting, and I keep all of my boxes of stuff here, like got a bit of finished sandpaper, that kind of thing. I've got another one of Mike's bowls. Oh my God, he's gonna tell me off so much for doing this. But I've got another one of Mike's bowls with all of my router bits that I use on the reg. And then under there it's looking a bit busy, so we're gonna move swiftly on. Got my laptop there because I was doing a bit of work before I jumped on this video. We also have a dust extractor just for the CNC machine because it can get, obviously, very dusty. But this is great. This is from Axminster. When it was new, I think I paid like £300 for it. And you can get them secondhand pretty cheaply on Facebook Marketplace, that kind of thing. So I repurposed this. It was my first extractor. And look at it now, serving me well still. Here, we've got just random offcuts of wood, to be honest. Nothing particularly interesting to see there. Then we come on to my liquid and router machine station, which sounds counterintuitive, but they are on different shelves. So we've got my laminate vacuum press up there. We've got a fret press, or what's it called, like an arbor press, but I use that for fretwork. Got my rosette jig from StewMac up there. I've got a few routers. These Makita ones, they keep breaking on me. Anyone else? Not cool. Need to find a brand of router that actually work. This one also broke on me. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. It's me. My Dremel, however, ever reliable, which is nice. Got a couple of router bases there for it too. Here I've got some tape and some pencils and pens and that kind of thing, and then inexplicably some colloidal silica, which I use in conjunction with my West System epoxy for jobs that require maybe a bit of filler to go in them, for example, laminating guitar sides. Down here we've got some glue, we've got some spray finish cleaning stuff, we've got some veneer spray, we've got some thinners, and then loads of super glue, which is always highly useful. I've also got some lacquer, some touch-up 2K lacquer, and some glass cast stuff that I use for my rosettes. At the bottom here we have all the paint that I need for spray finishing and my spray gun itself. I use a DeVille Bliss GPG gun, which is absolutely wonderful. I would highly recommend it. I was recommended it by Rory of Taran Guitars. And then I've got my buffing compounds down there as well, hiding somewhere. Now we're moving to the center of the room, and we've got my trusty bandsaw here. I do not have a bad word to say about this bandsaw. It's a very faithful hound, and it's served me very well. I'm actually doing a bit of maintenance here because the emergency stop is causing me some issues, so I'm just sort of opened that up and had a look. It's a great piece of kit. It needs to be maintained like everything, but I'm really happy with it, so that's great. I've also keep my humidity gauge on it, and it is bang on 50% in here, which is why I never use my little dehumidifier. I've also got some stickers on there from my favourite people. So we've got Zyla's Scrap Panda. We've got a Zyla sticker. She went a bit nuts, which made me very happy because she brought loads of stickers to the workshop the other day when she was visiting. We've got StewMac stickers. We've got a Kids Invent Stuff from Ruth at Kids Invent Stuff. We've got a Matt Esley sticker when he came to visit, which I love. StewMac, another Zyla sticker, and then StewMac stuff all the way. And finally, I'm going to talk about my Workbench, which has coffee on it currently. I love this thing. It's great. I got it made by somebody who is called Nick Rhodes Furniture, and just really easy to spec out. Really, really lovely process. I got it made because when I was in my last workshop, I didn't have the space or a table saw to make one. So I could have done, but it would have been very difficult, and I just thought it'd be nice to give somebody the work. We all appreciate as independent makers when people trust us with a project, so Nick smashed it out the park. It's really great. It's got this quick release vise on it, and it's got some caster wheels on it. The floor in here is so uneven that I've only just figured out a system for keeping it straight, but it turns out during the shop move a few of the bolts had come loose, so now it is rock solid again. It's also got an inbuilt router system, which is fantastic for when I didn't have space in my last workshop, but I'm sure I'll bring that back at some point. Underneath my bench, I keep a lot of my molds and templates and apparently some shoes and this little pipe bender from StewMac. So yeah, And you know what? I kind of think that that is the whole shop. I think I've shown you guys everything. And thank you for coming along this journey with me. I better get back to work. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and leave a comment about anything that you think I should change, or anything that you liked, or if you have a suggestion or anything, just drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys as per usual, and I'll catch you in the next video.